So good afternoon, and thank you all for being here. On behalf of Polk Wellness Professionals, Chat and Chew More Plants, and Florida Trailblazers, I thank you for being here. I am Debbie Zimmerman, Chair of Polk Wellness Professionals. Our mission is to bring health and wellness leaders together to build a stronger, healthier community. Because we believe that lasting health doesn't happen alone. It happens when a community comes together with a shared purpose. That belief sparked a powerful collaboration. Polk Wellness Professionals joined Chat and Chew More Plants to bring to the world monthly Zoom presentations. These are free, but they are featuring experts who focus on the power of food for healing. From this collaboration came Florida Trailblazers, which is part of the global Building Healthy Communities movement, guided by the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. Together, this partnership has brought world-renowned experts to Polk County, including Dr. Michael Clapper, Dr. Michael Greger, and Jane Esselstyn just in the last 2 years. And tonight, we continue that momentum with Dr. Shivam Joshi and Dr. Neal Barnard. Can I hear a round of applause? Yes. Because we are here to address a growing epidemic, diabetes and its complications, not only in our community, but across the globe. Kidney disease, heart disease, neuropathy, and more. These are serious challenges, but they are not inevitable. I want everybody to understand they are not inevitable. Because one of the most powerful tools we have is something that we use every single day. That is what we put on our plates. Food has the power to either contribute to disease or it has the power to prevent and reverse it. And tonight it is about understanding that power. You're going to hear from extraordinary experts who will connect the dots between your kidneys, your blood sugar, and your plate, and show what's truly possible. But before we begin, I want to thank folks that are in Florida Trailblazers. And ladies, I would like y'all to please stand up. And I think there's a slide that shows our Trailblazers. Are y'all standing? I don't see all of you. We have some in the back too. So please thank them. Come on, it's a Lakeland thank, not a Bartow thank you, okay? I also want to thank our sponsors, and those are our sponsors, because without sponsors, we cannot put on an event like this, I promise you, okay? So let's take this message and make it more lifelike, because knowledge is powerful, but seeing it, tasting it, and experiencing it, that's what creates change. So did y'all taste the food samples tonight? Yes. Everybody was over there tasting food samples? Were they good? You enjoyed those? Okay, so we are going to show you how to make those food samples. Does that sound good? So you can take it home with you and enjoy them at home. Now, did I say I'm Debbie Zimmerman? Yes, okay. And my business is PhytoFit, and I am a plant-based chef, and I am going to pull somebody else up who is a volunteer. Hope, can you come on up? I'm going to ask her just a few questions first. Hope, how long have you been plant-based? You need to speak into the microphone.
5 years. Can you hear me? 5 years.
Okay, so why did you become plant-based? Why did you take this step? And what has it done for you?
So I made this step because When I had my 65th annual checkup, I was 100 pounds overweight. My blood pressure was sky high. I was maxed out on my inflammation medicine. Did I say blood pressure yet?
Yes.
My triglycerides, all of those, the lipids. And I had been,
A1C.
and my A1C, yeah, I was pre-diabetic. And I had always gone into the doctor and say, besides my weight, how am I doing? And I knew at that moment that I was going to die if I didn't change. I literally knew I was going to die if I didn't change. And so I called my sister, God help me, I called my sister and I said, I need help. And she said, okay. And she took me on, and she's been coaching me for 5 years.
And what are the results?
Oh, okay, so everything's perfect. I'm only 7 pounds overweight. My blood pressure is perfect. I got off of my, it's called meloxicam. It's an anti-inflammatory. I was maxed out. I'm off of it.
A1C.
A1C is from 6.2 down to like 5.3, 5.4. What else did I? Oh yeah, and all of my lipids are like excellent. No, they're not. They're just good. Debbie's are excellent. Mine are good.
Did you say you lost 90 pounds?
Yes, I said I lost 90 pounds.
So please give her a round of applause. Okay, come on over. So we're going to do this. I'm going to put my apron on. Hope's going to put hers on. I'm a Food for Life instructor, and Food for Life instructors, there's several of them here. Food for Life instructors, do y'all want to stand up? Because they are volunteering. There's one. There's more. There's one in the back. Anybody else? Okay. So anyway, Food for Life instructors are through the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, and we actually teach people how to prevent, how to reverse disease, and it all starts with food. Of course, Dr. Barnard is on all of our videos, so he's teaching too. But we have 2 very delicious recipes. Y'all tasted them, so y'all know how delicious they are. But I want you to pull out of your handout, because everybody should have gotten handouts. You have this beautiful nutrition rainbow. And if you looked in your cup that had the Cowboy Caviar, you would have seen a beautiful rainbow. And that rainbow is so important, because you should have a rainbow on every single plate, breakfast plate, lunch plate, dinner plate, because those rainbows, you'll see what all of these different colors mean, okay? So we are going to start over here with our cornbread. And you know what? We're going to start over here on the easy one, because this one's easy. So everything is laid out, but I'm going to tell you all of the benefits. Hope's going to put them in the bowl, and this is a Salad Master bowl. By the way, Salad Master is a national sponsor of Food for Life. So we love Salad Master, but this is a beautiful insulated bowl. So we're starting with black beans and black-eyed peas, or you could have chickpeas instead of the black-eyed peas. One thing that vegans or plant-based people get asked all the time, do y'all know what it is? Where do you get your protein? We get asked that question all the time. And you get your protein from black-eyed peas and black beans and legumes. All of those are protein-based. And when they're full of protein, they're also full of fiber, right? They also have calcium and iron, right? So when people say, but I have to drink milk because milk makes stronger bones. Folks, your beans and greens make stronger bones, okay? Take my word for it. So we got black beans and we have black-eyed peas, 1 can of each. They are drained and rinsed. When you rinse your beans, you are reducing your sodium by 40%, okay? And if we have diabetes or heart disease, you tell me how many milligrams of sodium should we limit it every day? You tell me. Nope, not 120, but you're close. 1,500 is your limit. And I will tell you that if you go out to the restaurant, you're probably getting 3,000 in one entree. Okay, so the very next thing is going to be corn. So corn provides resistant starch, which is so good for your gut. So what are all of the gut bugs called in your stomach? Your microbiome. So what does the microbiome feed on? Fiber. Where do you get your fiber? From your plants. Do animal products have fiber? No, zero. Can your gut microbiome live on animal products? No, because there's no fiber. Okay, so we have our beans, we have our corn. Now we're going to add cherry tomatoes. Now, if you look at your rainbow here, what does red stand for? Audience participation. Lycopene, yes. Y'all can talk out loud. It's okay. Even if you said beta carotene, I wouldn't laugh. It's red is for lycopene. So our lycopene is very, very good for us. You can see here that it has a lot of antioxidants. It also helps to prevent cancer. And guys, it targets prostate cancer. You should have at least 10 servings of lycopene every day or every week, okay? Do I have a question? Well, we haven't gotten there yet. Okay, you're rushing me, okay? Okay, so anyway, there we go, lycopene, and if it's cooked, it's going to be healthier, okay? If it's cooked, it's going to be healthier. It's going to have more absorbability. The next thing is going to be our leeks or onions, and onions are in the allium family. If you cut them, if you cut your onions, no matter what kind of onions, and you cut your garlic, because we know onions and garlic are paired, right? So if you cut those two, you want them to sit and rest for 5 to 10 minutes, because allicin is the active ingredient in there. And that allicin is going to torpedo free radicals and cancer cells. So you want to make sure you have that allicin. So cut, rest, 5 to 10 minutes. You got that, Hope?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good deal.
Yes, Coach.
What is the next thing that we are going to add? Bell pepper. Bell pepper is packed with, and we're using orange bell pepper, just to add to the rainbow, of course. But bell pepper is packed with vitamin C. 3 times more vitamin C in a bell pepper than what we get in fruit. Less calories, too, if you're watching your weight. Next is going to be our avocado. And avocado would be a healthy fat, yes. It is heart healthy. But we also know that it is full of fat, and we do want to make sure that we're not eating too much fat in our diet. Okay, good deal. So Hope, the next thing is going to be the lemon. Lime juice. So lime is also a great source of vitamin C. We're putting it in there. We also know that even though the avocado has a lot of heart healthy nutrients, it doesn't have a whole lot of antioxidants. So we add the lime juice and we pour it right on top of the avocado so it's not going to turn colors on it or oxidize. And Hope, we're going to add parsley. Now, yours may have had cilantro. And with a show of hands, this is audience participation. With a show of hands, how many believe cilantro tastes like soap? Yeah, I am right there with you. And you know what? It is a genetic thing. And it is interesting, though, but cilantro contains chemicals called aldehydes. Have y'all heard of aldehydes? So those aldehydes make soap, they make lotion, and they actually are in some bug sprays. Not necessarily something, but that's why you don't like it. But 4 to 14% of the population think that cilantro stinks and tastes like soap, and I'm one of those people. Okay, so Hope, give that a big toss there.
You want me to put the spices on?
Oh yeah, wait a minute, we forgot the spices. Okay, so we can't forget our spices because I promise you spices are really what is truly going to give this a lot of flavor, but also with the spices, we know that they are anti-inflammatory compounds. And when you look around the globe, those cultures that use the most spice have the lowest rates of chronic disease. So I encourage everybody to do their spices, put as many spices, start early in the morning with their spices, and go all day with spices, okay? Now, do y'all have, okay, so there y'all can see, and Hope, when you get that nicely tossed, and you're doing a beautiful job there. Okay, then I want you to hold it up to that camera over there. Uh-huh. And okay, so y'all see how, don't dump it out, Hope. That wouldn't, you know what?
For me.
Yes. Okay, so let's give Hope a big round of applause here. Okay, so next we are going to do cornbread and sweet potato cornbread at that. How many like the sweet potato cornbread? Yes. So, you know, down in the South, cornbread is really a comfort food, and a lot of people would probably think, oh no, I should not be eating cornbread. But we took all the bad out of this cornbread. All of it is very, very healthy, and we're going to begin. First of all, we have 1 3/4 cups of soy milk. But soy has been one of the most researched products available because it has gotten a bad rap saying it, you know, helps, and because it's a phytoestrogen, it's going to flame breast cancer, and that is not true. And out on my table, you can actually pick up something to that effect. Or you can call or email me and I'll send it to you. Okay, so with this, we have already added 4 teaspoons of vinegar. And we know that when we add vinegar to regular milk, that vinegar is going to curdle the milk. This is already curdled. So this is soy buttermilk, okay, without the buttermilk. So it's already curdled. Now, what we're going to do is add a 1/2 cup of sweet potatoes to this, and that's there. And we're going to add that to our canister here. And then we are going to add 4 tablespoons of maple syrup. Well, you may think, wait a minute, maple syrup is not healthy. But did you know that maple syrup contains antioxidants and minerals? It actually has 20 different types of antioxidants in it. 20 different ones, making it much healthier than refined sugar.
And it's not Aunt Jemima.
And by the way, it is not a pancake maple syrup like, you know, one of that you would pull off the shelf. Okay, so Hope is going to use the immersion blender, and I want to caution because we have a small thing here. When you do this, you want to start slowly, but you want to put it all the way down at the bottom of your container and just hold on to that, lift it just a little bit. I told her she cannot splatter y'all. You know, y'all are the shamus right here. Y'all are the ones that would get splashed.
Keep praying.
Yeah, just keep that going. Okay, that is it. And then you turn it off before you take it out. Because you know what happens when a blender is going, it splatters. And once again, I did not want y'all to be splattered, so let's just put that there. Now, we are going to add to that, into the bowl, we are going to add our oat flour. So we know how good oat flour is, right? Oats is the one thing that can absolutely says it helps to cut heart disease, okay? So eat your oats every day. Start the day off with it. The next thing is our cornmeal. And cornmeal is, and this is our cornmeal. This is not Jiffy. Did y'all notice there's no Jiffy? I know Jiffy is very popular down here in the South, but it is not Jiffy. Okay, so it's cornmeal, and then, what is that?
Baking soda.
Oh, so we have our baking soda, and we also have our, and then you need to mix that first. Baking soda and our baking powder, we're going to mix that, and it is going to get nicely done, and then we're going to add our concoction here. And you know what? If you ever just want to have something good to drink, this is like a smoothie almost. I didn't mention sweet potatoes. And sweet potatoes are classified as a superfood. So how many know what a superfood actually is? Okay, what is that, Deb? You raised your hand. Okay, give me one quality of a superfood. It's very good for you. Anybody else? High in fiber. Nutrient dense. Polyphenols. And what is that orange? Dean, what did you say? Low glycemic index. Antioxidants. And what does that orange mean? Beta carotene. Now, if you came to a Food for Life class, you would know that you should try to get 30 milligrams of beta carotene every day. Now, would you go to the grocery store and look at the supplements and get one that says 30 milligrams of beta carotene? No, you wouldn't. Come on, audience participation. You want to get it naturally. 2 carrots. That's all you need to do, 2 carrots every day. Or a large sweet potato will do it as well. Now, we always are wanting to enhance fiber. Fiber is our friend. And so we are going to add a cup of fresh corn to this and mix that up. I am going to move this. And so the next thing that we are going to do, I've already mentioned that Salad Master is our national sponsor. And Salad Master has the electric oil core skillet. Anything that you bake in the oven can be baked in this electric oil core skillet. So we have this warm. Our guest chef here is going to pour this in. And what's really cool, we have it already warmed. And then I am going to set the timer, and I am going to set this, since I am, whoops, I'm doing this the wrong way. Okay, so I am setting the timer, and I am going to put this on for 45 minutes. And then it will automatically turn off. Hopefully by then, let's spread that out. Okay, so can my camera see that? I don't know if you can zoom in on that. Okay, and we have, let's put this back here. Okay, so we have this, we're going to cover it up, and it's going to automatically go off. How does that sound? Yeah? Come on, folks, let's see that energy. Woohoo! Okay, and this is what your cornbread is going to look like afterwards. Isn't that gorgeous? Yes, and yummy, yes, yes. And so what more can we ask for? A gorgeous rainbow salad and our cornbread. Hope, let's give Hope a round of applause. that concludes me for right now. And I am going to ask Kathy Thornhill to please come up and introduce our first speaker.
Let's hear it for Debbie
Oh,
and Hope. Yay. And for vegetation, because they prepared our food for us tonight, so we're glad to have that. Good, you can hear me, Kim. I am so excited to speak to you tonight. Chat and Chew More Plants has been a health study group for 14 years now, and we've had lots of speakers. Some talked to us on Skype, and then we had the Zoom, and we had doctors like cardiologists, and we had bariatric surgeon, we had family practice, but we never had a kidney doctor. Never. A nephrologist. And I don't know why, because did you know the CDC says that if you're over 18, you have 1 in 10 chances to have kidney disease, chronic kidney disease? And if you have diabetes, it's 4 in 10 that will have that. So we knew we needed to have a nephrologist come speak to us. Well, we'd been watching this young man, young doctor, who was going to places like Hawaii and presenting the information about the kidneys and diet. The UK health professionals sought him out. He went to the Real Truth About Health and spoke, and there's a bunch of videos that he's done related to that. And we've seen him other places too, but we hadn't seen him in Polk County, and we thought, we need to have him in Polk County, but let's find out what his bio says. Is he really as good as these people must think he is? Well, he graduated from Duke University with his BA, and then he went to University of Miami, and he got his residency at the University of Miami Hospital, and then he got his his kidney doctor fellowship, that word just doesn't come out, at University of Pennsylvania, a really good school. So we thought, he sounds good, but what's he doing with it? Well, we found out that the National Kidney Foundation gave him the Joel D. Koppel Award, and he was the youngest doctor to receive that. This is what the president of the National Kidney Foundation said about Dr. Shivam Joshi. Dr. Joshi is incredibly impressive. Though he is still early in his career, he has already made important contributions to the field of renal nutrition. He is dedicated to his patients and understand that his patients understand kidney disease and its relationship to nutrition. That's weird, isn't it? You mean what we eat can affect our health? Wow. And he's also really, they said, Dr. Joshi, he understands how critical it is that we do something about it because it touches the lives of so many Americans. Well, that was the kind of doctor we want to have speak. So then we found out he was working and serving veterans. Yes, as says Hope, who's a veteran. Do we have any other veterans here? All right, good, yes. Thank you for your service. And Dr. Joshi is serving veterans in Orlando at the VA. So we sent him an email thinking, would he Skype, would he Zoom with us, maybe for free? And this is what happened the next day. An email arrived from him, and here's what he said. You probably know this already, but I attended Polk County International Baccalaureate High School in Bartow, Florida. I would be glad to speak to your group, and I'll even come to the meeting and present in person. Yes! He went on to tell his story. He said he grew up in Sebring, not Polk County, in Highlands County, and there were some AP classes, and they also had lots of other classes that were geared toward agriculture because of the citrus area, but that was not my calling, he said. My parents supported me and drove me to Bartow every day so I could go to high school there. And I am forever grateful, said Dr. Joshi. The students, experience, and faculty were all amazing and have shaped my life in a positive way that's unquantifiable. It's like my education has come full circle. Now I'm the educator. So welcome home, Dr. Shivam. Joshi, we're ready to learn. Here he comes.
I have not had an introduction like that, I don't think, ever. I need to hire you. So this is very sentimental and personal. If you are going to complain about someone telling you to eat your veggies, well, it's your fault because you educated me. So I am back 20 years later as a physician, nephrologist, lifestyle medicine physician to tell you to eat your veggies and be healthy. So I have a few disclosures. I work for the federal government. These views do not represent them. They make me say this. I do eat a plant-based diet and I enjoy it. So, table of contents. This is what we'll be talking about today. Kidney disease, it is pretty much all I think about and do and breathe and live, besides eating, of course. But we're going to talk about it. We're going to go into it. And you may think that this does not really relate to me, but if you have high blood pressure, which a large portion of the population does, or diabetes, then you are vulnerable to kidney disease because over time, the kidneys do deteriorate from those diseases. So let's talk a little bit about the kidneys. Most people have two. There's a little bit of comic relief thrown in here because this is a very dense subject and can get complicated quickly, as my medical students and residents know. So this is inside a kidney. Most people have two of them, and the kidney essentially functions as a giant filter. And the product of its work comes out in the urine. That's all the toxins that the body doesn't need, all the metabolic byproducts, and that goes into the toilet. And when the kidneys don't work well, the urine essentially accumulates in the blood. So if that's a gross thought, it is, because it can cause problems really quickly, and we have to do dialysis when the kidneys completely shut down. So how do you know you have kidney disease? I get this question a lot, and you really don't know until you do labs. You have to do labs to find out. In order to have a complete analysis, you have to give a blood sample and a urine sample. And on that, it will tell you an eGFR, which roughly corresponds to the percent kidney function. And there are 5 stages of kidney disease. Stage 1 is the mildest, stage 5 is the most advanced, and stage 5 is also known as kidney failure or end-stage kidney disease. So, 1 in 7 people, this number is a little bit higher, it's up to 16-17% have kidney disease in America. And if you have diabetes, that goes up to 1 in 3. If you have high blood pressure, that goes up to 1 in 5. So we're going to talk a little bit about the basics of a plant-based diet. Some people here are experts, and you got a wonderful cooking demonstration earlier from Debbie and Hope, who did a great job with that. So what is a plant-based diet? So no exact definition. Doesn't even mean you have to be vegan or vegetarian. Your diet is just mostly plants. Another way to eat is that you're eating less meat and dairy than the standard American diet. There's a lot of synonyms for this: plant dominant, plant strong, plant supportive, plant leaning, plant forward, plant powered. They all just mean that plants are the focus of your plate. Reason being is that plants are really healthful. They're full of fiber. So what is a plant-based diet? There's a lot of terms or variations of it. It can be Mediterranean, flexitarian, vegetarian, pescatarian, reducitarian, DASH, whole food plant-based. But they all emphasize plants as the centerpiece of the meal. Plant-based diets can be unhealthy, as we've seen. There are fake burgers and different things, but the idea is to eat a healthy version of this. And so what does eating a plant-based diet look like? So it involves eating a lot of plants. Some people think that, oh, this is restrictive, but once you go down this path, it actually opens up and forces you to eat foods that you may not have eaten. For example, you may find yourself eating quinoa or tofu, I can't tell you the number of people who have never tried tofu, and the list just goes on. And all these things are healthy. So what are the potential benefits of a plant-based diet in kidney disease? There are a lot, and a lot of the work that I do revolves around this, and we've published on it. But the centerpiece is this, is that eating healthy prevents the causes of kidney disease, high blood pressure, and diabetes. It can help you hold on to your kidneys if you have kidney disease, and it prevents and treats complications that come from having kidney disease, like high phosphate levels, high acid levels, toxins, things like that. So what are the causes of kidney disease? So the number one cause of kidney disease by far and away is diabetes, unfortunately. Number two is high blood pressure, and everything else is 3, 4, 5, and so on. The reason I bring this up is that diabetes and obesity, I throw it in there, are potentially modifiable. These are diseases that come from our lifestyle. And by eating healthier, we can modify these diseases to a large part. Type 1 diabetes is a different story, but type 2 diabetes, yes, by, in one way, eating plant-based diet. Reason being, a lot of fiber. These foods are low in caloric density. They reduce the amount of calories we take in. They also tend to be lower in fat, lower in processing, have less sugar. They have improved glycemic index, increased insulin secretion. They have a lot of benefits. And the benefits continue also with blood pressure. I have a whole talk on blood pressure, but I've condensed it down into a couple slides. Years ago, there was a study called the DASH diet, and the DASH diet looked at, is there a way to reduce blood pressure without medication? And what the researchers found is, yes, there is a way. And that way, unsurprisingly, involves eating a lot of plant foods. And what they found more, and this is even more surprising, is that within a few weeks, you can lower blood pressure by 21 points systolic and 8 points diastolic just by changing the way you eat. And the way they did this was emphasizing more plant foods, reducing salt, reducing fat intake, reducing processed food intake, and they were able to see reductions in blood pressure within 2 weeks. The study went on for 8 weeks, but within 2 weeks, most of the changes in blood pressure had occurred, which is really incredible. The amount of blood pressure that was reduced was more than even some medications. And the authors that published this study and discovered this, they wrote about this in the paper, and they said that this is more effective than a lot of the medications that are approved and currently on the market to treat blood pressure. My argument is, can plant foods exclusively improve this even more? And we have not looked at that yet. So why is animal protein problematic and plant protein helpful? Animal protein is higher in sodium, it's lower in potassium, it causes weight gain, it causes inflammation and oxidation. Plant protein essentially does everything in the opposite. It's lower in sodium, higher in potassium, causes weight loss, the amino acids have less inflammation, less oxidative stress, it's natural alkali. So all these things are helpful. These foods are also helpful for the kidney. An interesting facet about eating animal protein is that the more animal protein you eat, the higher your kidney function goes. And you heard that correctly. So then the question is, why is he telling me to eat plant foods? So in the short term, your kidney function goes higher. So that GFR number is the percent kidney function. That increases as you eat more protein, especially if you eat more animal protein. But the idea is not to have higher kidney function now. The idea is to have any kidney function at the end of life. And too many people have too high a kidney function, and they have kidney disease, and then they end up needing dialysis later in life. The idea is not to overwork your kidney in your younger years. I don't know if that makes sense. So the idea, what's happening here is that the extra protein is causing this issue called hyperfiltration that we as nephrologists talk about a lot. And that hyperfiltration is problematic for people who have damaged kidneys. If you have healthy kidneys, you should be just fine. But the important part is to making sure you have healthy kidneys. If you have unhealthy kidneys, if you have chronic kidney disease, stage 1, 2, 3, or 5, eating all that extra protein can be problematic. And actually a mainstay of treatment in kidney disease is reducing protein intake or eating a low protein diet, as it's called. So what about plant protein? What if you eat a lot of plant protein? Does it cause the same hyperfiltration thing? And it does not, actually. And we think that's because plant protein tends to be easier on the kidneys. So again, we come back to the question, why is animal protein detrimental to kidney function? It's a lot of the same things I've been talking about. It's the inflammation, it's the acid in the kidneys, which we'll talk about more, affecting the microbiome, the sodium content, inflammation, the lack of phytonutrients. And plant foods kind of work in the opposite. And because they work in the opposite, they are associated with lower odds of developing kidney disease. This is a meta-analysis showing this. Eating a plant-based diet is associated with a reduced incidence in developing kidney disease. This is another meta-analysis, which is a summary of studies. And lastly, here's another meta-analysis showing that plant-based diets are associated with a reduction in the amount of protein in the urine. Having protein in the urine is not a good thing, it's abnormal. And it's also associated with less of a decline in kidney function. So these are all good things coming from eating your vegetables. So we come back to my central slide, which is this, and we move on to the next part, which is the complications of kidney disease. So the kidneys do a lot, and one of the things that they do is reduce the amount of phosphate that's in the blood. Unfortunately, this increases when the kidney function declines, and phosphate accumulates, and a lot of our patients have to take phosphate binders. This is really problematic because they're not convenient to take, and you have to take them every time you eat. And we tell our patients not to eat foods that are high in phosphate, but phosphate is not listed on a nutrition label. So if you've been wondering, how come I've never seen it on a nutrition label? Because it's not listed there. And that is really problematic for our patients. And one of the things I counsel is that eating plant foods, actually, even though they're listed as having a lot of phosphorus when you go on databases and look it up online, a lot of that phosphorus is not absorbable. And that phosphorus, the reason it's not absorbable because of an enzyme called phytate. Humans lack the enzyme phytase to break it down. And then comes the rule of thirds, meaning that 1/3 of the phosphorus in plant foods is absorbable, 2/3 from animal foods, and then 3/3 from processed foods. So by eating plant foods, less of the phosphorus is absorbable. Another thing I want to talk about is acidosis. Acidosis is a big problem for patients with kidney disease. The acid accumulates, and normally in healthy kidneys, the kidneys dump acid in the urine. But if you have kidney disease, the acid accumulates, and we give baking soda, literally, sodium bicarbonate to neutralize that acid. You may have heard of alkaline water, which is not that effective in this condition, but eating alkaline foods is actually more effective. And the reason it's effective is because fruits and vegetables have natural alkali. Those are the natural alkaline foods. And this is what I counsel patients to eat instead of doing sodium bicarbonate. And the average dietary acid load in America is between 50 and 75 milliequivalents of acid. It's high in animal protein and low in fruits and vegetables. And you can see here in this graphic that the more base-producing foods are going to be your fruits and vegetables, and the more acid-producing foods are going to be your meats, cheeses, things like that. And we've seen in studies that using fruits and vegetables neutralizes the acid just as effectively as sodium bicarbonate. This is really effective through all stages of kidney disease and is associated with weight loss, improvements in blood pressure, improvements in urine protein, and no increase in potassium levels, which is a common concern. And because of these studies, people have written that the key to halting the progression of chronic kidney disease might be in the produce market and not in the pharmacy, and I couldn't agree more. We have studies lasting 5 years showing this, that people who eat fruits and vegetables can neutralize their acid and slow down the decline in their kidney function, which is incredible. And they can have lower weights and lower blood pressure and no increase in their potassium levels. And the fruits and vegetables that they ate were all the things that you would find in the grocery store here. So a common issue, I see many people for this, is kidney stones. And kidney stones are very problematic. They're very painful. I actually had one when I was in high school here. And at that time, I was not plant-based, so if I could go back in time and give myself this talk, I probably would not have had a very painful kidney stone. I was in 11th grade English. Happy birthday to my 10th grade English teacher who is here. But I remember being in 11th grade English class and having a kidney stone. And at that time, I was eating a lot of animal protein because I thought I could make it onto the football team to bulk up. How foolish was I? But I have not had a kidney stone since, and I've since learned how to prevent one. But the main thing is eating a lot of plant foods. Plant foods are actually the natural treatment for preventing kidney stones. Reason being is that animal protein is acidic, acidifies the urine. That acidity promotes the formation of kidney stones. Animal protein also increases the levels of oxalate, uric acid, calcium. All of these things are the perfect ingredients to make a kidney stone. And people who have kidney stones often have a calcium oxalate stone, and people think that it's important to not eat calcium or oxalate, but really it's important not to eat sodium and animal protein. And we've proven this in studies over the years. People who eat less animal protein and more plant protein have less kidney stones. This has been shown in very large studies. And the treatment for kidney stones, if you continue to have kidney stones, often is potassium citrate. And potassium citrate is just a compound that is naturally found in fruits and vegetables. Potassium. So when I give this talk to other nephrologists, their big concern is, well, all that food, all those bananas are going to raise someone's potassium, and I'm going to have to do dialysis on them. And I tell them, no, that's actually not true. And when we look at the literature, what we see is that all that potassium in the food is actually never absorbed, or a lot of it is not absorbed. And if it is absorbed, people excrete it right out with their bowel movements. The fiber encourages the fecal excretion of potassium. The colon has homeostatic mechanisms to increase potassium excretion. The improved insulin sensitivity facilitates the movement of potassium inside cells and not in the bloodstream. And then some of the potassium is not absorbed, going back to high school biology and learning about cell walls in plants. Cell walls in plants are harder to break down, and because of that, the potassium is not absorbed. So some people estimate that 60% of the potassium is absorbable and the remainder is not. And when you look at the studies, a lot of the studies show that there's no increase in potassium, and when that increase in potassium does occur, there's often a better explanation for it. And we have written about this for anyone interested. And then the last question, as was alluded to earlier, where do you get your protein? You get it from eating food, specifically beans and lentils and legumes and peanuts even. All of these foods have protein, and you can get enough protein. And actually, by eating plant-based, you actually eat less protein than the standard American diet, which is beneficial in kidney disease, but you're not protein deficient. And even if someone is on dialysis, you can get enough protein. People on dialysis need more protein, and studies have shown that. So now I come to my big picture and conclusion. So this is the fun part. So this is going back 20 years. That was me at high school graduation. And then, yeah, on the left, I did graduate high school, yes, thank you. And then the right one was at a Spanish competition with the late Senora Anderson. And the rest of the pictures I couldn't show. It just was, you know, I was 18, younger. And it was interesting looking at those photos because we're now, and everyone's doing selfies, but back then no one did selfies. So I had very few photos of myself. These were at least presentable. Anyways, so coming back to this, so 75% of kidney failure comes from diabetes and blood pressure. And I like to end on this to highlight that you can make my life easier by eating healthier, not giving me a job, and I could just go to the beach and read a book and put my feet up and have a great time. But I am very, very busy. And many kidney doctors are because of the explosion in diabetes and high blood pressure. And interestingly enough, 90% of diabetes is type 2 diabetes, and 90% of that diabetes is preventable, and 80% of high blood pressure is preventable. And almost a decade ago now, the light bulb went off for me, and I realized that these diseases need not happen, they need not be uncontrolled, and they need not cause kidney failure. And the idea is to move people along the spectrum from eating an unhealthy diet to something healthier. And so we come back to this. And eating this way helps prevent the causes of kidney disease, helps your kidneys if you have kidney disease, and helps treat the complications of kidney disease. And after I completed fellowship, I started doing a lot of work in this area, and ultimately that work helped make it into a revised version of the guidelines for kidney nutrition. And the new kidney diet is called a Plato diet, plant-dominant, low-protein diet. I was the second author on this paper. And essentially it says, eat plants, don't eat as much protein, and the rest of it will fall into place. And that is probably the healthiest thing you can do compared to the old version of the guidelines. And then my work was formally cited in the guidelines in 2024, and then I really thought it's time for me to hang up the hat. And the guidelines now say that if you have kidney disease, adopt a healthy and diverse diet with higher consumption of plant foods compared to animal-based foods and a lower consumption of ultra-processed foods. And then the second point is to consult with a dietitian, which I strongly recommend because this stuff can get complicated quickly. So, I want to thank many folks who have helped me along the way. I need to update this and add in the Polk County Public School education system. Anyways, thank you all. I did not hear anyone snoring, so I suspect people paid attention. That's great. Feel free to contact me, and I'll be around for questions.
Well, did you learn something about your kidneys? Yeah. Wasn't that interesting? The treatment for kidney stones are plants? Did you know that? No. And you know, if you were like me, I was frantically taking notes, and I meant to tell you this ahead of time, but it will be on our YouTube channel, our Chat and Chew More Plants YouTube channel, towards the end of next week. So then you can watch it again, which I'm planning to do to take care of that. Okay, before we go on to our next speaker, because we've got two speakers tonight, and they're going to be great, I want to introduce Daniel Holmes. Daniel, where are you? In the back. Okay, can you see him back there? I want you to see who he is. He is the founder of the Enlisted Kidney Foundation, and he's here tonight, and he has a table out front. So if you happen to be a veteran, I think you should, or if you have veterans in your family, I think you should check out that table. So thank you so much for coming, Daniel, and helping us spread the word about this session.
As a wellness manager for 30 years and a diabetes educator for the last 20, I spent years working with individuals who were told the same thing over and over again. Disease or diabetes is progressive. This is a lifetime illness. This is something you must manage. And yet, deep down, I kept asking myself, what if this is not true? Is this really the whole story? Then one day I came across the work of a physician who was asking that exact same question. And more importantly, he was answering it. Through his research, his clinical work, and through compassion, he began to show something extraordinary. That type 2 diabetes is not always a one-way street. That for many people, it can actually be improved and even reversed through the power of nutrition. I remember thinking one day, I would love for my community to hear this message directly from him. Not second-handed, not summarized, but straight from the source. And folks, today it's happening. The day has come. Dr. Neal Barnard is an adjunct professor of medicine at George Washington University in Washington, D.C., and the president of the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. Dr. Barnard has led numerous research studies investigating the effects of diet on diabetes, body weight, hormonal symptoms, and chronic pain, including a groundbreaking NIH-funded study that helped pave the way for viewing type 2 diabetes as a potentially reversible condition for many patients. Yes, thank you. He has authored more than 100 scientific publications and 20 books, and serves as editor-in-chief of the Nutrition Guide for Clinicians, a textbook that is used by every medical student across the United States. As president of the Physicians Committee, he leads programs advocating for preventive medicine, good nutrition, and higher ethical standards in research. Work that has contributed to the inclusion of plant-based diets in the dietary guidelines for Americans. In 2015, he was named a fellow of the American College of Cardiology, and in 2016, he founded the Barnard Medical Center in Washington, D.C., helping to make nutrition a routine part of medical care. Working with the American Medical Association and the Medical Society of the District of Columbia, he has authored key policy resolutions advancing prevention and nutrition in healthcare. In 2018, he received the Distinguished Service Award from the Medical Society of the District of Columbia. He has also hosted 4 PBS television programs on nutrition and health. Now, on a personal note, as a Food for Life instructor, I like to joke that he is my boss. And he is also the voice in my head a lot of times. But truly, he has been a mentor of so many of us, whether he realizes it or not. So please help me give a warm Polk County welcome to Dr. Neal Barnard.
Thank you, Debbie. And thank you, Shivam, for a wonderful presentation as well. Thank you, Debbie, for pulling all this together. Okay, let's talk about type 2 diabetes and see what we can do about this condition. What I'd like to do is, first of all, show you the approach to type 2 diabetes in sort of simple terms. And then what I'd like to do is back up and show you some of the science that got us here. So this is a muscle cell. I stick a needle in your bicep and I pull out one cell, and that's it. Or it could be a liver cell. But in any case, this cell works on glucose, sugar. Sugar is not bad. It's your muscle's favorite fuel. And there's a lot of it in your blood, but the thing is it's got to get into the cell. If your cell is going to use it for energy, it's got to get inside. The problem is it can't get through. The cell membrane surrounds the cell and it keeps the glucose out. Won't go in. So there are little channels that need to be opened up by insulin, which is like a key. It's made in your pancreas, behind your belly button, and it goes through the blood and it attaches to the surface of that cell, and it opens up these little channels. So insulin's like a key that lets the glucose come inside. So very simple. You all with me? Okay, so here's the problem. I had cheese pizza for lunch, and I had chicken wings for dinner, and I had fried onion rings later. There's a lot of fat in those foods, dairy fat or chicken fat or whatever, and that fat builds up inside the cell. Now, doctors don't want to use a word like fat because it has only 3 letters, so we'll call it intramyocellular lipid, and that means fat inside a muscle cell. And that does something really bad. The insulin key still attaches, but it cannot signal. The cell is filled with fat. This insulin just can't work. You've got insulin. It's still attaching. It's trying to open up that little channel, but it can't do it. So that's no good. Now the glucose is staying outside, and anything that I eat that's got starch or sugar in it, it's going to make my blood sugar rise. And then my doctor's going to prescribe metformin and then other drugs, and I'm never going to get rid of this. Well, wait a minute. Wait. What if I can get the fat out of the cell by what I eat? What if I don't eat any animal fat anymore? I'm going to be a vegan right now. I'm going to have no animal fat. Okay. What if I keep oils low by avoiding fried, greasy stuff? That fat starts to dissipate. And when it does, the insulin key starts working again. And it opens those channels up. And the glucose comes inside again, and everybody's happy. Cool. Okay, so let me back up now. Let's see how we got to this point of figuring this out. You know the work of Dr. Dean Ornish? It was 1990. He showed that you could actually reverse heart disease. He wanted to make that ugly-looking artery at the bottom look like the nice, healthy artery at the top. And he brought in people who had serious heart disease, and he asked them to do 4 things. Vegetarian foods. Now, let me ask you, why would you use vegetarian foods for a heart patient? Why would you do that? Okay, avoid cholesterol. Cholesterol is only in animal products if it's vegetarian. You get rid of cholesterol. Anything else? All right, get rid of the bad fat. Okay, very good. So that's what he did. Vegetarian foods, half-hour walk every day, manage stress, which is why he didn't do the study in northern Florida, and and avoid tobacco. And that was the whole program. So what happened? After a year, your average person had lost 22 pounds. That's cool. Their cholesterol dropped. Do you know LDL? LDL cholesterol, bad cholesterol. It dropped 37%. But what made the headlines is everybody got an angiogram, and it measured that little trickle of blood that got through the coronary arteries, and the arteries were widening up. They had been slowly narrowing. Now the opposite was happening. They were opening up again, so much you could see a measurable difference in 82% of the participants in the first year. Very cool. Okay, so now here's why he said, I think vegetarian is going to be the way to go. Middle column is cholesterol. Right-hand column is saturated fat. That's the bad fat, the kind that raises cholesterol. Okay. Plants. Anybody see a difference? Okay, 0 cholesterol, almost no saturated fat. But by the way, some people think, but you eat salmon, don't you? That's good fat, right? Well, there's some good fat in there, but look at that. There's cholesterol in there too. And there's bad fat in there too. Oh man, all right, so anyhow, cheddar cheese, don't even think about it. If it were any worse, it would be Vaseline. Okay, so my research team said, okay, let's do the same kind of thing, but let's zero in on what diet alone will do, and let's do it for people who don't have heart disease, who just want to lose some weight. So we brought in 64 women. They were all overweight, and they'd done Atkins and South Beach and Jenny Craig and Nutrisystem. And we said, let's do one of 2 things. Half of you we're going to randomly assign to do a low-fat vegan diet. And we had to explain that vegan doesn't mean that you're from the planet Vegas. It just means no animal products. And the other group did a conventional diet that was sort of a chicken and fish type of healthy sounding diet. And we asked them not to change their exercise, hold that constant, and we're going to do this for 14 weeks. And we said, eat fruits in the vegan group. Eat fruits and grains and legumes and vegetables. And our participants were horrified to discover that we were going to make them eat pancakes and toast and fruit and pasta and things they were convinced would make them gain weight. And then they discovered that Twizzlers are vegan. I wasn't thinking about Twizzlers. When you set up a research study, you make rules, and our rules were just no animal products, keep oils low, that was it. I didn't think about Twizzlers. You look at the package, it's just sugary, starchy, artificially colored junk, but there's no animal products in it, there's no added fat, so we said, all right, anyway, do whatever. So after 14 weeks, your average person in the vegan group lost about 13 pounds, compared to about 8 for the other diet. But what matters more is what happens longer term. On the control diet, the weight came back. On the plant-based diet, it never did. Cool. All right, so meanwhile, our research colleagues at Yale University wanted to see how this is really working. They brought in a small group of people, healthy young folks, and they stuck a needle in their arm, and they infused fat into their vein. Yeah, that's right. They put fat into their vein. And what they showed is as the fat went in, their insulin sensitivity tanked. In other words, it's as if you're creating diabetes, you're creating insulin resistance, not over years or months or weeks, but just within hours. When the fat can get, remember the fat getting into the little cell? That's what's happening. So then researchers said, well, wait a minute. We don't get fat in a vein, we swallow it in a meal. So let's have a meal with a lot of palm oil in it, see what happens. Uh-oh, your insulin sensitivity tanks that afternoon. Well, let's try a healthier fat, let's try canola oil, same story. Bottom line, every single meal that a person eats, the fat content of that meal will adjust their insulin sensitivity or insulin resistance. And it happens really quickly. Fat will zoom into that cell, and it comes out much more slowly. Cells are kind of greedy. They want to hold on to that fat because they are convinced that at some point there might be a famine, or maybe you're going to need that fat, so your body wants to hold on to it, even though you want to get rid of it. But you can get rid of it with the diet changes we talked about. So NIH gave us a grant to test a portion-controlled diet versus a vegan diet. And the portion-controlled diet is what used to be kind of the typical diet, and in some places may still be, kind of the default diabetes diet, cut your calories and don't eat too much carbs. But the plant-based diet said, I don't care how much you eat, there's no limit on carbohydrate, there's no limit on calories, but we're not going to eat animal products, we're going to keep oils really low, and favor low glycemic index foods, like beans, for example, that they don't spike your blood sugar the way, say, white bread might. Okay? And the control diet, the comparison diet, was good. It dropped A1C about 0.4. That's good. But the vegan diet dropped A1C 3 times better without any limit on carbs. These were people eating spaghetti and oatmeal and things they thought they couldn't have anymore. And they were doing that much better. Why? Because you're getting the fat out of your cells. And in the course of this, one of our participants said to me, Dr. Barnard, I've had neuropathy for 18 years. And if any of you ever had neuropathy is where the nerves are being attacked by this disease. If you're lucky, you're just getting numb. But for many people with neuropathy, it's pain that gets triggered by this. And he said, I knew he had this. He told me about it when he joined the study. But about 4 or 5 months into the study, he said, my neuropathy is gone. And I said, well, that's wonderful. You've really worked hard, you've done very well, and you've come down on your medicines, and it doesn't surprise me that your neuropathy would improve a lot. And he said, that's not what I said. My neuropathy is just gone. I don't feel it anymore. So anyhow, we then did studies on neuropathy to show that, yeah, even if you've got late-stage diabetes, put this to work. The effects will vary from one person to the next, but you don't want to miss it. It's amazing. And then there was another person in the study. He was 35 years old. He joined the study, and I remember him saying, I'm here because I have to be here. My family history is terrible. I've had diabetes for 4 or 5 years. If I don't get this under control, I'm going to lose a leg. I'm going to go blind. And as fate would have it, he was randomly assigned to the vegan diet, and over the course of the next year, he lost almost 60 pounds. His A1C was 9.5 to start, 9.5. And if a person has diabetes, we're trying to get it below 7 for good management. Well, as time went on, he lost weight, his cholesterol came down, his outside doctor stopped his diabetes medicines, and his A1C was 5.3. Now, I want to tell you, this was 20 years ago. I got his lab slip, and I knew that he had had an A1C of 9.5 before, and he was in trouble. But now he was on no medicines with an A1C of 5.3. I took his lab slip, I walked in my office, I closed the door, and I paced around for about 10 minutes, trying to decide, could I tell him that he was cured? You have a person with totally normal blood sugar on no medicine. Now, at that time, that was extremely controversial because, as we all thought, diabetes is a progressive disease. It never goes away. And we don't say that to be mean. We say that to make people take it seriously. Take your medicines on schedule. Test yourself because this disease can hurt you. But here was a man who didn't have any sign of it. And since that time, of course, we see this frequently. But this doesn't happen with the kind of diets that have been used up until now. Okay, so now I'd like to talk to you about your car insurance. Geico has its corporate headquarters about 3 or 4 blocks from my office. And after our NIH study came out, the Geico health director said, let's do a study at Geico. Because we got people with diabetes and people who want to lose weight at Geico. Let's see what we can do. And so we made an agreement that at noon on Tuesdays, a group would come down and learn about the diet, and at noon on Wednesdays, another group would come by and do the same thing. And the cafeteria manager said, I will make vegan food. Now, he was a little new to this concept of how to do... Okay, we are all learning, people. Anyhow, he figured it out. But people lost weight really well. If they had diabetes, their A1C came down really well. And some people had amazing experiences. Hillary and Bruce were the youngest people in the study. And some of the other participants resented them a little bit because they would kind of sit in the back and talk a lot during the cooking demonstrations and things. And one person said, I don't see why they come, because they're always talking and they're kind of distracting everybody else. You know what? You can misjudge people. They were totally into it. They were talking, but what they were doing was planning out their shopping list, what they were going to get on the way home, how they were going to do a vegan Thanksgiving for their parents, how they were going to convince their friends to do it. And they were passing notes back and forth, and they were planning. They were totally into it. And a year later, Bruce sent me this picture. He had lost 100 pounds. Hillary lost 85 pounds, and they told me something else. They said, when you have had a lot of weight and you try diets and the diets don't work, you know who you blame? You don't blame the person who devised the diet. You think it's my fault. There's something, and if I fail on a couple diets, there's something wrong with me. I had a bad upbringing. No, this is something about my character. That's what people start imagining that. And you get a sense that maybe I'll fail at other things. Maybe I won't be such a hot employee or a good partner or a good father. Because anyway, once you realize there's nothing wrong with you, there's a lot wrong with diets that get pushed on people, but there's nothing wrong with you. And when you put the right fuel in your body and you see your health start to reclaim itself, you can start erasing all those negative tapes and feel like, you can do a lot of stuff. And one thing they decided that maybe they could do once they'd lost weight was, let's see if we can run. Go running. And they loved it. And anyway, Bruce took this picture the day they ran their first half marathon. So Let me just say a word about type 1 diabetes. In type 1 diabetes, you will always need to inject insulin because your pancreas no longer makes it. But we decided to see what happens when people with type 1 diabetes do this diet. We brought in 35 people, half of them did a portion-controlled diet, the other half did a vegan diet. And what we discovered is their insulin dose dropped about 28%. And their insulin sensitivity went through the roof. Why? Their pancreas isn't making insulin, but they're injecting it, and it goes through the blood to their muscle cells, which are filled with fat, and to their liver cells, which are filled with fat. And on the vegan diet, the fat comes out to a great degree. And whatever insulin they're using goes so much further because their cells are supercharged. Don't get me wrong. You got to still see your doctor, and you still have to test and everything if you have type 1, but your body handles insulin so much more effectively. Okay, now you might hear a person say, oh yes, a vegan diet, try a Mediterranean diet. It's so much easier. Because you feel like you're driving down the coast of Tuscany, having fun. Well, forget it. Okay, listen. My group of research killjoys decided to put this to the test. We brought in 62 people who wanted to lose weight, and we asked half of them to do a Mediterranean diet. You know what this is. It's less meat, more vegetables, but still some meat. Some fish, some chicken, olive oil, that kind of stuff. So half of the participants did that, the other half did a low-fat vegan diet. 16 weeks later, everyone switched to the opposite approach, the opposite diet. Everybody did both. And let me show you what happened. I'm going to show you their body weight. As the Mediterranean group started their diet, they thought, this is really a cool, indulgent diet. I can eat fish, and I can have oily stuff on my salad and everything, and I hope the weight loss begins soon. Well, they didn't really lose weight very well. The vegan group discovered that going vegan doesn't mean that you have to acquire a taste for folk music. It doesn't mean that you're wearing tie-dyed clothes or anything like that. It just means that when they bring your spaghetti, a tomato sauce goes on, not the meat sauce. That's all it really means. And they lost weight like crazy. And after 16 weeks, we said, wait, time's up, stop. Take 4 weeks off, and now do the opposite diet. And the Mediterranean group started the vegan diet. And they said, this is why I came here. They started losing weight. But the vegan group now had to start the Mediterranean diet. They brought chicken and fish and cheese back in their diet. And they were the angriest group of research participants we have ever had in a research study because A, they said, I've lost my taste for that stuff if you don't mind. And secondly, the weight started coming back again that they had lost. They couldn't wait for the study to be over to go back. Okay, all right. So a Mediterranean diet also is not effective for lowering total cholesterol, not good for lowering LDL cholesterol. When it comes to blood pressure, we actually did see some benefits for the Mediterranean diet, even more than the vegan diet. For whatever reason, they both lowered blood pressure, but the Mediterranean group somewhat more. I don't know why, but I am going to guess is that we encourage people to have extra virgin olive oil, which has polyphenols, which can lower blood pressure. I think that's what was going on. So don't get me wrong, Mediterranean diet, often better than what people were eating before, but for most people it's not enough to turn things around. Okay, so a healthy diet. Fruits and grains and vegetables and legumes, and you do need vitamin B12. Not optional, you gotta do it. You need it for healthy blood and healthy nerves. You don't need much, but it's important. Now, in our clinic, Barnard Medical Center, which some of you might see, some of our doctors, we do telemedicine here in Florida, and we have live and in person in Washington. You will discover that when we encourage a person to start a new diet, we don't use logic and talk you into it. Logic, as you have probably discovered, plays almost no role in human behavior. And you can prove this to yourself tomorrow morning at breakfast. Oh, how did you choose what you were going to eat? Did you think, well, I could use maybe 10 or 12 grams of fiber today? No, you didn't say that. What we eat is what our parents ate or our friends ate or what's in our culture or what is being advertised or what you're hooked on or whatever. That's kind of what we do. And I will show you the neurobiology of logic. When we try to say to a patient who comes into Barnard Medical Center, or they're in Orlando and we're doing telehealth, if we were to say, a plant-based diet can help you to need a lot less medicine for your diabetes, maybe none at all. And a plant-based diet's a good thing. Okay, in the patient's brain, you know the ideatron, right? It starts releasing ideas like, I should try a vegan diet. But the ideas irritate the famiglia. And the famiglia then triggers the don't-do-atory gland to release endorphins. And the endorphins wipe out the idea. So you can't do that. That's not going to work. So we don't bother with logic at all. What we do is we say, okay, Hank, welcome in. You've got type 2 diabetes. You've had it for 17 years. Let's see what we can do. And I draw an oval on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, and I say, this is a cell. I stick a needle in your bicep, and here's a cell. It's got fat. I draw the fat, and I explain it to him. That takes me about 90 seconds, 2 minutes. And then I write my phone number on it. And I say, if you want to get the fat out, he says, I want to get that fat out. Then we're going to really do a big diet to dig it out and get it out. And it's a plant-based diet, no animal products. Keep the oils really low, but you can do it. And then my work as a doctor is finished. Our registered dietitian takes him and his reluctant spouse, and they sit down for 45 minutes, and their whole goal is to figure out what they would actually like that fits the guidelines. So the dietitian will say, let's take seven days, and fill out this piece of paper. Think of vegan foods that you actually would like. Okay. I'm no big chef. I eat cereal in a bowl. That's like me. That's what I do. All right, that's a start. Let's say we put almond milk or soy milk on it. That's vegan. Is it? That's too easy. Can I have oatmeal? Yeah, you can. Could I put berries on it? Sure, that's super. Is there any kind of sausage that's vegan sausage? Let's go to the store, let's see what's there. And let's try it. If you like it, let's write it down. But if you don't like it, let's skip it. And you'll find there's vegan bacon that's kind of a liberal interpretation of, it's kind of like half bacon, half potato chip. But, see what you think. And there are all kinds of other products. So you got 7 days. You got an appointment to come back in, and we're going to see what you found. And what happens is people find all kinds of stuff. And then for breakfast and also for lunch. And you can just work your way through things. And then you have to think about what you're going to eat at a restaurant, because this is real life. Wait a minute. The Italian place I go to, they've always had an angel hair pasta with a marinara sauce, which is kind of tomato sauce, not very spicy. And they've got the arrabbiata sauce. Arrabbiata is Italian for angry. And it means, I'm going to give you a little spice in there. But they're both vegan. Cool. Okay. I'm going to see if they'll make me a pizza with extra sauce, extra veggies, and skip the cheese. And yeah, that's what happened. And the Latin American restaurant will make you bean burritos, veggie fajitas, beans and rice. Bean tacos, okay. Extra jalapenos, fine. Chinese restaurants, they've got 3 dozen. Rice dishes, tofu dishes, vegetable dishes. You find the ones you like, or you skip them if you don't like them. Extra points for Japanese, because there's not only a lot of plant-based things, but a lot of them, they really don't add oil to many of their things. So jump in there. Now, Hank is going to say to me, look, every lunch, I either eat a Taco Bell or a Subway across the street. That's where you are. See what you can do. Well, I discovered the soft shell taco, I can have beans instead of meat. They'll throw in extra diced tomatoes. I can put in onions. I can put jalapenos in that too. Is that okay? Sure. How much fire sauce do you want? I don't. Go knock yourself out. Try Subway. They'll slice open your bread. They'll put all kinds of veggies inside. They'll put red wine vinegar on it. There's no fat in that. All right. If you liked it, write it down. Okay. A week went by, and I got the biggest list ever. So now the dietitian says, your next job, for the next 3 weeks, I want you to eat those foods. That's it? Eat the foods that I already like? That's it. But we're going to be vegan. We're going to have no animal products. We're going to keep oils really, really low, because I'm going to scoop the fat out of your cells over the next 3 weeks. But you also have to keep in touch, because the next week they're going to have an issue, like, I'm on the road, I'm driving somewhere, and I don't know what to eat on the road. Or I got invited to a wedding and I don't know what to do there. There's always issues. So you keep in touch with your dietitian. Okay. But it's really good to have weekly support, whether it's a Food for Life class, whether it's talking to a dietitian or whatever. Really, really, really good idea. Okay? And then as they leave our office, we have this thing, which you can shoot if you want, or just go to foodinstructions.org. People forget a little bit of what we talked about. So at that website are these cute little cartoon videos that are just a few minutes long that talk about insulin resistance and how to get the fat out of your cells and that kind of thing. So very, very simple. We give that to every patient who comes through so they can kind of remember it. Okay? And you can share these with your family if you want. Foodinstructions.org. For doctors and medical students, we make the nutrition guide for clinicians. It's got everything from Alzheimer's to varicose veins and the surprising role that food can play. And we do have an app, free, 21-day vegan kickstart. It's on your iPhone. It's on your Android. The Android one is under reconstruction right now, but it's there. It's in English and in Spanish. No cost. And we built this for our doctors, but our patients love it. It's got menus and recipes and videos and all kinds of stuff. Okay, if you decide, I want a dietitian to coach me, which is a really good idea, you might discover that the dietitian that you picked doesn't know what a vegan diet really is like, and might even try to talk you out of it and say, have you tried keto lately? My husband's on the carnivore diet. You know, all these people have all kinds of wild ideas. Don't go to that person. For me, as a doctor, when I am prescribing a certain diet to knock down diabetes, I don't send the patient to a pharmacy that can't fill a prescription. You have to work with people who know how to do it. So the Preferred Dietitian Referral Network is a network of dietitians who can prescribe and personally follow a low-fat vegan diet and can guide you, and also who take telemedicine. So you put in, I live in Florida, and you look who they are, and maybe they're in Miami, but they'll talk to you on telemedicine. They may be in your insurance plan, they may not be. If they are not, see them anyway. Maybe it's $75 and you got to see them 2 times or 3 times. It's worth it. What the heck? You know? Okay, so that's the Preferred Dietitian Referral. Very cool. We have a program every Tuesday at noon called the National Diabetes Program. And it's just your support group where we'll take your questions and we'll talk in real time. So it's the National Diabetes Program, 12 o'clock, Tuesdays, Eastern Time, free. So a lot of doctors who say, well, I don't have a support team, they refer their patients to us. And so people can just tune in and we'll give them all the support you need. This is our medical center, Barnard Medical Center. So as I mentioned, it works. I have to say, the doctors who work for us feel like they died and went to heaven, because you are no longer treating your patient like a medication receptacle. What we are doing is we are working in partnership. We're working together. We're going to figure out what works, what doesn't work so well, and we're going to see if we can't turn this darn thing around working together. It's the coolest thing. For those of you who want to be in Washington when it is its most hot and sweaty, in the middle of August, we have the International Conference on Nutrition and Medicine, August 13th through 15th. We'll have about 800,000 doctors and dietitians and nurses there. And these are some books that I've written, but there are many, many others by other authors that I would encourage you to look at as well. We have some of them outside, and if you'd like to look at them, I hope you will. But I do have one request. If you do get a book, please don't keep it. Look it over, get what you can get out of it, and then give it to somebody else who has never heard of this and who needs it. And if you're going to give it to a family member, here's a little trick. I learned from my mother. My mother had a really high cholesterol level, and she wouldn't listen to a word I said. And I couldn't figure out why, because I know about cholesterol. I kept saying, Mom, you should try a vegan diet. It's got no cholesterol in it. It'll knock your cholesterol down right away. And she just would pay no attention. I finally realized, I am my mother's third-born child. Anybody here a third-born child? Did you ever look at your family photo album? There's a lot of pictures of number 1. There's some pictures of number 2, but to find you got to look in the index. Your mother barely knows you're alive. So anyhow, I've been to medical school, and my mother is paying no attention. So anyhow, I gave her a book that I wrote. And like 6 months later, I noticed it was in the same place on the copy. You know, you can tell when a book hasn't been read. So anyhow, my mother finally went to her doctor, who threatened her, said, I'm going to put you on a statin because your cholesterol is sky high. You need medicines. And she thought, I don't want to do this. I'm a Midwestern girl. I don't want to do this. She picked up my book and she went vegan. She didn't tell me. 7 weeks later, she went back to the doctor, and the doctor took her lipid levels and called her the next day and said, Mrs. Barnard, there's something wrong here. You have to come back. She said, what is the problem? It's our equipment. It looks like your total cholesterol is 80 points lower than it was before, but we know that's not possible. So is there something wrong with our equipment? Come back in and we'll check your cholesterol and we'll see what it really is. She said, wait, did you say my cholesterol dropped 80 points? He said, no, it just looks that way. It's obviously a fault in the laboratory. She said, but if that's real, would I need a drug? And he said, no, what I'm telling you, that's totally normal, but it's obviously wrong. She said, thank you, goodbye. She hung up on him, and she called me up. And my mother said, Neal, why didn't you tell me about this before? So anyhow, she got religion. And then she made my father vegan. He didn't know it, but my father's never been in the kitchen. He doesn't shop for food. I ended up with 2 vegan parents. Only one of them knew it. So anyhow, I realized a trick. If you're going to give, this is what I'm coming to, if you're going to give a book to somebody else, what you have to do, don't just set it there. Take a Post-it note and put it on page 71, and another Post-it note on page 200, and one on page 312. And on the cover, put another Post-it note on the cover and say, I thought of you. When I was reading a part on page 71, that was you. And the part on page 200, I thought of you again. And anyway, just give this to them. They'll call you back like 2-3 weeks later. I read that book 4 times. I can't figure out what you meant, that you thought of me. Each time I kept reading it and reading it. And by the way, there's some good recipes in there. Did you know that? But what was it about me? You just said, I wanted you to open it. You can do this with videos too. You say, between about 50 minutes and an hour and a half, sweetheart, that was you. They're going to watch it like 6 times. They're going to absorb it. So a Post-it note is your propaganda friend. Put it on every book, and they will tear that thing open and try to understand what the heck made you think of them. And the answer is nothing. You just wanted to manipulate them. And that works fine, okay? So that's all I have to share, except for one thing. One thing. The last thing I would just want to say is, as a researcher, I do studies. My studies get published in journals that gather dust. And nothing changes until a person puts what we find to work. That's what Debbie Zimmerman has done. That's what many of you have been doing. And when you put that to work and you can see how it works in your own life, that's cool. And then when you share it with other people, you share it with a family member, you share it with a friend, you write to somebody about it, you email somebody, or you're on social media. And social media, you put something on Instagram, your favorite recipe, it's like throwing a rock into a pond, and it sends ripples out to who knows how far. You might say, I'm just one person. I can't change anybody. You are not one person. You are part of an army that is learning and trying and sharing and changing this world that we live in. Now, the human body is a frail thing. Things can go wrong no matter what you do. It's not a perfect system. But if we try and we really work as hard as we can to put what we know to work and to share it with others, we can change this world. Thank you very much.
Okay, it's question and answer time, and we are so thankful for both doctors and both presentations. I hope y'all enjoyed it as much as I did. My first question is for Dr. Joshi. What medications, especially over-the-counter medicines, should we avoid when you're talking about the kidneys?
I'm glad someone asked that question because I didn't bring it up in my presentation. My presentation was largely focused on what to eat in kidney disease, which is my area of interest. But very important not to overdo the NSAIDs, the Aleve, ibuprofen, Motrin, Advil. I ask all my patients every visit. Sometimes I sound like a broken record. But those medications can be damaging to the kidneys, especially if you're dehydrated out in this Florida heat, which we're just beginning to see. And especially if you're on medications that can reduce blood flow to the kidneys, like lisinopril, losartan, Jardiance is all the rage now. So very important to be mindful of that. And if you do take those medications, make sure you take it with a big gulp of water. Yeah, Dr. Barnard brought up a good point. So why is this problematic? These NSAIDs, ibuprofen, Aleve, Motrin, Advil, et cetera, meloxicam, these medications reduce blood flow to the kidneys. So if you're dehydrated, you're getting even less blood flow to the kidney. And then if you're on a medication like lisinopril, losartan, Jardiance, spironolactone, list goes on, that also reduces blood flow to the kidney, and then you can really reduce your kidney function, and you can actually turn a transient reduction to kidney function into a permanent reduction in kidney function, because some of the distant parts of the kidney, inside the kidney, are not getting enough blood flow, and they tend to die off. And I see that every so often. So very important to stay hydrated and avoid those if you take a lot of them.
So I just have to say, my husband and I are a case study, a living case study for you, Dr. Barnard, particularly. We started because we saw the documentary, What the Health? That Monday. We saw it over the weekend, and that Monday we began. So we're standing here, 67 pounds and 88 pounds less, completely reversed our chronic diseases, off all medications. So we feel like doctors like you have given us our life back. But we now spread the word of health, and we now share forward so that other people can learn from us. I'm lucky, my sister's a lifestyle medicine physician, so I had her instruction as well. So the one question or the one comment that I get the most is, I can't do your lifestyle. It's too restrictive. I can't leave cheese. I can't leave animal. So as plant-based doctors, I would love for both of you to input on this. What is the one sentence or the one thing that you would say to them when they say, it is too restrictive, I can't live like you?
Well, first of all, thank you and congratulations on what you have both done. It's wonderful. First of all, I'm delighted that you had that experience, and I'm thrilled and grateful to you for sharing that. That's a generous thing and a kind thing, and even life-saving. So thank you for that. Maybe I could ask other folks, how do you handle that? People will imagine that it's impossible or too difficult. Does anybody have an answer for how you manage that?
Yeah, 17 years vegan. One of the things that we hear that is very effective is, don't talk about what they cannot eat. Talk about all the new and adventurous things they can have. They probably never had quinoa, they probably never, and add new things rather than take things away, because nobody wants things taken away. So that's my comment. My question is, right now, GLP is really hot, and I saw an article in the New York Times just about a week ago saying 1 in 8 people are using these, I don't know what you want to call them, GLP-1s. And is there any research available or coming that will test the long-term effects of this? Because it's probably more dangerous than people realize.
That's a terrific question, but let me come back to that in a second, or Shivam, you can tackle that if you would. But I want to address your question a little bit more about how do you approach this idea that it's difficult or restrictive or whatever. There might be a number of ways of thinking about it. One is, first of all, if a person's hurting, if they've tried everything else, if they think about jumping in, even for a short period of time, don't commit to it forever. Commit to it for 3 weeks or something like that. See what it is. And don't give up skepticism. You don't have to believe in it. You know, if you've got a urinary tract infection, you don't have to believe in an antibiotic. You just swallow it, and it's going to work. The other thing is, I wrote a book recently called The Power Foods Diet, which was designed, you'll see it outside, it was designed to focus on the foods that you add to your diet. And the food photography by Dustin Harder is about 2 steps away from food porn, if you ask me. It's like, wow, look at that. And so the whole idea is to kind of seduce people into realizing this is going to be an okay way of eating. And I would say 90% of people, at least in our studies, find that there are some awkward moments at the beginning. But within about 3-4 weeks, you are feeling all right about it. And you miss these foods much less than before. It's much easier than quitting smoking. For any smoker, I mean, you're like, ugh, you know, but it's kind of a similar phenomenon, because when a person gets away from tobacco, the first week or 2 is hard. But then after 3 weeks, 4 weeks, you couldn't pay them to go back and have a cigarette because they now have power. If a person had weight issues that were bothering them, if they got diabetes and they didn't see the light at the end of the tunnel, and suddenly you have a ray of hope because your weight is coming down and your blood sugars are coming down, that's a good feeling. And it's also good to be surrounded by kind of like-minded people, so you're not alone. Anyway, those are a few ideas. Shivam,
I agree.
Do you want to jump in on that too?
That was so well said. You know, when people say I can't eat that way or I can't live that way, I say I can't live that way that you're doing now. Going to see the doctor, taking all these medications, paying these copays, going to the pharmacy, taking a half day off of work, having your life medicalized. Of course, if you have to do it, then you have to do it. There's no choice. But but there is a choice in that you could choose to do lifestyle. So to me, it's an investment, and it's the best investment you can make apart from medical insurance, life insurance, taking these meds, going to the doctor, just to take care of your own self and to make that connection. And I try to do this in real time by saying that these are all the medications you're taking. By eating this, we probably could reduce this list a little bit. And if you exercise, we could reduce it a little bit more. If you lost weight, you may not have, this list may go away. And once people start going down this path and doing it, it gets to be addictive. People like it. People like being healthier, not having to take those medications, not having to see me. I mean, yeah, it's as much as, you know, my jokes attract people, but I'm certain they would rather be playing golf or spending time making memories with their children or grandchildren. And I try and connect it that way. And Dr. Barnard and I were just talking earlier about just how society has become kind of normalized that as you get older, you will be unhealthy and you will be sick. And that doesn't have to be the case.
I love that. Thank you so much. And one of the things I like to say when people will sometimes say when I tell them I'm plant-based, that's very drastic. And I'm like, well, so is open heart surgery when you have heart disease. And I'd much rather eat plants than go under the knife. So I love what you're saying. I think that's awesome. Thank you.
If not to belabor, but we've done organized tests of different diets to see how hard they actually are. And a vegan diet sounds hard because people sort of imagine that it has something to do with politics or whatever. But the fact is, you're not limiting your portions at all. And look at the typical diets that people get if you go to a weight loss place or to a typical diabetes dietitian. They'll limit the carbs. They'll tell you you can never have a potato, you can never have bread, you can never have pasta, and you have to limit the portions that you have, and da-da-da-da-da. And I say, you don't have to do any of that. You can explore foods and see the ones that work. So.
And Dr. Barnard, I think when I started about 8 years ago, I used the 21-day app. So that was a great start for me. My husband said he'd never seen me eat so much when I turned plant-based, so he's right. Anybody have another question for either? Okay. GLP-1s?
Yeah, sure. I think GLP-1s are helpful. There's a role for them. Some people have issues that they've tried everything, and some people may even be plant-based and exercising. They can't lose weight, and GLP-1s help them. The issue brought up is, what about the long-term risks? We don't know. We'll uncover it together as a society. We don't know. What we do know is that if you come off of it, the weight does come back. Some people do have side effects from it. Nausea, vomiting, diarrhea can be severe. But for some people, it can be very helpful. But we don't know those long-term risks. We are studying it. There's research being done, but we don't have an answer for that right now.
But you know, what you said is so important. A person starts a GLP-1, and they won't always lose weight impressively, but they often do. They lose weight pretty quickly, and then it stops, it plateaus. And they keep taking the drug, and it doesn't go more. And then for the rest of your life, you're paying Novo Nordisk to stop the weight from coming back. And so next year you're going to pay this money, and nothing will happen. And the next year, and the next year, and the next year, which is the reason that probably 75 or 80% of people throw them away. And they don't call the doctor to say, I'm not going to CVS anymore. They just stop. So anyway, that's where we are.
So as a almost 16-year-old brain cancer survivor, my name is Matthew Orlando Rivera, and I'd like to ask that since I've been diagnosed, in the beginning of my diagnosis, I was treated with pill chemotherapy and radiation at the same time as my first treatment, while eating not necessarily plant-based, but lacto-ovo vegetarian. And so pretty much at that time, I was at maybe possibly bouncing between 3 different hospitals and stuff like that, and maybe getting kicked from one to the other. And, not necessarily eating plant-based all the time, but I just wanting to know, understanding even now where I am at the age of 31, I have late radiation defects from that, where a lot of radiologists and everything like that have tried to diagnose me with diabetes insipidus. And I had to talk to them and let them know that it's not diabetes, it's more or less the fact that I'm trying to eat more fiber and trying to be along the lines of just trying to, get more, plants in and everything like that. And I was asking your question about that. And what do you say about diabetes insipidus for plant-based eaters? That are currently losing weight and working on.
Yeah, thank you for sharing, and I'm sorry you had to go through that, and I'm really glad that you made it out and are here today. A lot of the medications that people get for neurological cancers can cause diabetes, steroids being big. One of them cause weight gain, and that causes hyperglycemia. But your concerns are really specific, and I would probably say to work with a doctor on them specifically, but eating plant-based can certainly help with that.
Hi, Matt's mom here. I kind of tried to write down my questions for various people. With anti-seizure meds, a lot of times they're metabolized through the liver, but Matt is on some that are metabolized through the kidneys, and he does eat predominantly plants since about January 2013. So I know he wants to know anything he can do to support his health. I've been eating plants with him predominantly since January 2013. I'm kind of like a chubby, whole food, plant-based person, though. Kind of a late night eater, a little stressed in my life. And so I'd be interested in knowing if there's anything I can do to help lower blood pressure besides what I'm already doing. And if you could bear with me just a smidgen longer, corn allergy. So the people who made the recipes, I'd be interested in knowing what you would substitute in Cowboy, Caviar, And then finally, I really appreciate the work of Dr. Neal Barnard, and it's helped me a lot in feeding my son over the past decade and a half of brain cancer. Still here, hallelujah. And right. So, but I've noticed that a lot of the institutionalized care, which I think is something that PCRM really cares about a lot, if somebody's in a nursing home or a rehab center or assisted living, or if they're home-based and they're allowed through Medicaid to have meals delivered to their home, they're required to have milk. They're required to have, there's no home-based delivery service through Medicaid where you can get whole food, plant-based food. I've called the different ones. I would love you guys to maybe look at that in the future, do whatever you can, especially since the science says one thing and then the government won't fund it, to help people be healthy who want to be healthy. I know that's a lot. Thank you.
I'll go after the low-hanging fruit there, and I'll leave the policy question to Dr. Barnard. I actually was going to ask Dr. Barnard some of these policy questions. There's no rule against the presenter asking another presenter a question. But for blood pressure, eating the DASH diet, as I mentioned earlier, that secondary analysis showed that eating a DASH diet, which is emphasizing whole plant foods, reduction in animal protein, a reduction in salt, a reduction in processed foods can reduce blood pressure pretty quickly within a matter of weeks. Exercise can reduce blood pressure. Avoiding substances like alcohol, tobacco can reduce blood pressure. Losing weight can reduce blood pressure. For every kilogram lost, that's 1 point systolic that's reduced. So those are things that people can do to reduce their blood pressure. Sleep apnea, also that's another thing. Getting that treated can reduce blood pressure. So there's a few things. And some medications, going back to my least favorite medication, the NSAIDs, ibuprofen and Aleve, those can raise blood pressure too. So getting off of that can help.
Let me add one thing. I love it that you mentioned the DASH study, which was an amazing study and so influential, and rightly so. But they did kind of a cool thing in this study, is they brought in people who had elevated blood pressure. And first they split them into two groups, or more than that, but to make it simple, two groups. One group followed sort of a usual kind of diet. And the other group followed the DASH diet, which is what Dr. Joshi mentioned. And it's pretty big on vegetables and fruits and also getting rid of the fatty junk and minimizing meat and that sort of thing. That was part of it. Separately, they also reduced sodium at different levels, and they did it for both groups. And so the people who weren't on any kind of a special diet, but did change their sodium intake by, and it's not so much the salt used at the table, it's more the salt that's built into that can of soup. Or, the green beans didn't have any salt in them until the factory got a hold of them and put in all the salt in the can. That's where the salt sneaks in. And so the people who were following the low salt, even without changing the rest of their diet, got a substantial blood pressure lowering from that. And then the people on the DASH diet, when they added the salt lowering, they got an effect. So the point I'm making is that you want to do both of those. You want to get the junk out of your diet, have it be a vegetable-heavy diet, plant-based diet, and do the sodium part in addition, and let them add together. And that's a cool thing to do. About policy, there's an on-again, off-again effort to have actual medically formulated meals. And the American Medical Association, of which I'm in their House of Delegates, is trying to push for this. We got a meeting coming up in Chicago on this exact thing, and to try to get the government to realize that although there's money that you're going to have to spend to provide it, you are rewarded many-fold by the improved care and reduced medical expenses people are going to have. So good on you. I think those are really important points.
I have a friend that was recently putting every bit of sugar into her face that she could because she wants to get on the GLP-1 diet. But she doesn't have the A1C to support it, so she's trying to get it up. Do either of you actually recommend the GLP-1? Be honest, it's fine if you do. I just want to know.
So, lifestyle is always first, right? And then when people come to see me, I'm also expected to do my job. If you go to the firefighter, you know, if your house is on fire, the firefighter doesn't come to you and say, well, you know, did you do all the proper preventative measures? No, do your job, please, firefighter, and put out the fire. So as a physician, when people come to me, I talk about lifestyle medicine, but then I also have to treat the fire that is happening in front of me, which is the obesity, the diabetes, the hemoglobin A1C being so high, the protein that's spilling into the urine, the blood pressure that's through the roof, all of these things that I know that can kill a person. So I tell them their medication options, I discuss the risk benefits, and a lot of times people want to take the medication because they feel that they cannot do more with the lifestyle, which may or may not be accurate. So I do use it appropriately. I don't just reflexively say, you need to be on it, I'll see you back in 3 months.
And so if you have to put them on the GLP-1 to put the fire out, then do you taper them off of it? Because I know they'll gain the weight back. Do you then try to get them to change?
You cannot, and that's the point Dr. Barnard was bringing is, what do you do next? But the thing with GLP-1s is that you can actually improve the benefit. Even if you are on a GLP-1, you can still improve your outcomes by doing a lifestyle change. It's still not too late. You should pair it. I didn't understand that question, so I'm going to need someone to translate that.
Well, first of all, thank you for the work that you do in the community because fact-based information for people to make educated choices is really important, especially nowadays with all the misinformation that we see everywhere. My question is for people, patients that have been in a vegan, mainly vegan diet, and that want to have a balance or still need to lose weight, what would be your recommendation in terms of a percentage of processed foods, which ideally I'm pretty sure would be none, but most importantly, oil. I see that the recommendation is low-fat vegan diet, and I haven't checked the McDougall diet lately, but for years has been zero oil. But I also understand, or I don't know if I'm wrong or not, but for the endocrine system, sometimes good fats or certain fats are good. And when you have teenage children or preteens or children, and they're growing in a family that is mostly vegan, but they might be hesitant to, they don't want to eat meat, and you cannot have them with zero oils. What would be your recommendation in terms of oils and processed foods for it to be ideal?
I think there's a role for healthy fats. Oils can also be useful. Oils are calorically dense, so I think it's important to be mindful of that. So these healthy oils, olive oil, canola oil, can help with cholesterol, lipid panels, things like that. But they can also contribute to weight gain when done in excess, so you have to be mindful of it. I am of the mindset that these oils aren't not inherently bad, and there's a role for them, but I would say not to get carried away with them and to use them sparingly.
Okay, I believe that's all the time we have. Now, folks, you can't leave because we have a mountain of door prizes. But first of all, Vicki has a presentation to our doctors to thank them. But can we please have a round of applause for these wonderful doctors?
Thank you.
Dr. Barnard, is this your first time in Polk County? Is this your first time in Polk County?
I don't think so, but I'm
Okay. Okay. Well, no, that's okay. There's a little Polk County and a little bit of something else in there for you.
Thank you very much.
And
That's
I
so
know
kind.
this
Thank
isn't
you.
your first time in
This
Polk
is
County.
my first
so-
time in Polk County.
And we just thank you so much. And I appreciate your time and your extra questions and your extra answers. And it's just been wonderful. And I want to thank Debbie for getting you both here. That's great. Thank you.
Okay. Thank y'all so much.
We'll be hosting a Zoom with a Mastering Diabetes coach, Linda Rukavina, and she's going to give you some tips of what she's found works with people who have diabetes. So that'll be available for you. And if you take a picture of that QR code, that'll take you to that. Or you can pick up one of the flyers by the Chat and Chew table that has the QR code on it. Debbie, what do we have next?
Next slide.
And as I said, that our Chat and Chew YouTube channel will have this video on it next week. So take a look at that. We have other resources on our webpage. That takes you to the webpage. And we also have a podcast now, so we welcome you to enjoy that.
Next slide is going to be another diabetes class, and this is a Food for Life class. I will be teaching this on April 28th at 6 p.m. It is on Zoom, so you would need to know how to do Zoom, but it is a free class. I do offer one free class every month, and once you get on the rotation, you will hear what's coming up next.